Hello friends, welcome to my channel ELS English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpreet. Today we'll discuss about Shakespeare and his elements of tragedy. In my previous videos, I have discussed about tragedy, types of tragedy, important tragic dramatists, and terms related to tragedy are also discussed, but that are based on Aristotle's point of view, right? And today I will discuss about elements of tragedy, which are discussed by Shakespeare, and on these elements Shakespearean tragedies are based. So let us start with today's topic. William Shakespeare. He is famous for his tragedies. Indeed, many consider Hamlet as the best play ever written. His other tragedies include Romeo and Juliet, King Lear, Macbeth, right? And when we talk about his four great tragedies, these are Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. In Shakespeare's tragedies, the protagonist has a fatal flaw in his character, and that flaw ultimately results in death or destruction. And Romeo and Juliet is an example of a second period tragedy as Julius Caesar, and in the third period Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, Antony, and Cleopatra, right? First period tragedy is Titus Andronicus, that is from 1590 to 1594. Romeo and Juliet is second period tragedy, and in third period Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, etc. And Shakespeare tragedy has its own specific features, and these specific features distinguish it from other kinds of tragedies, right? When we talk about Shakespearean tragedies, it should be kept in mind that Shakespeare is also indebted to Aristotle for his fundamentals related to theory of tragedy. It means he is also indebted to Aristotle. And what are the fundamentals of tragedy according to Aristotle? That are already discussed in previous video. Link will be given in the description box, right? And all Shakespearean tragedies include these elements which I am going to discuss now. These tragic elements are included in some shape or form. And what are these elements? These are tragic hero, hamartia, catharsis, struggle between good and evil. Then we have tragic waste, external conflict, internal conflict, supernatural elements, lack of poetic justice, and comic relief. These are nine, we can say these are nine elements on which Shakespearean tragedy is based, right? So let us start with these elements. Now first, on number one we have tragic hero. When we talk about Shakespearean tragic hero, a Shakespearean tragedy is a specific type of tragedy where the hero either dies or ends up mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, right? And an important feature of tragic hero of Shakespearean tragedy is that he or she is a towering personality of his kingdom or country. And these tragic heroes are kings, princes, military generals who are very important to their subjects and very famous in their land. And for instance, we have Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. He is also intellectual, highly educated, sociable, charming, and also of a philosophical bent, right? So these heroes are, as I've already told, that these heroes are kings or princes. They have a towering personality of kingdom, right? And the hero is such an important person that when he dies, his or her death gives rise to full scale turmoil, disturbance, and chaos. And when Hamlet takes revenge for the death of his father, he's not killing his uncle, but he invites his own death, right? And as a direct result of his death, the army of Fortinbras enters Denmark to take control, right? So this is about Shakespeare's tragic hero. Next, we have a struggle between good and evil in his tragedies, right? And most of Shakespeare's tragedies deal with the supremacy of evil and suppression of good. When we talk about struggle between good and evil, right, there is a supremacy of evil, and this play out the struggle between good and evil. And evil is presented in such a way that it presents its existence as an indispensable thing. For example, in Hamlet, the reader is given the impression that something uh, which is not good will definitely happen to Denmark, right? And when we talk about Julius Caesar, the mob is unaware of the struggle between good and evil. within King Caesar, right? And goodness never beats evil in the tragedies of Shakespeare. Evil conquers goodness. Why? The reason behind this is that the evil element is always disguised, while goodness is open and it is freely visible to all, and the main character is assigned the task of defeating the supreme evil because of his goodness. And as a result, the protagonist suffers terribly, and he ultimately fails due to his fatal flaw, right? This is about struggle between good and evil. Now on number 3 we have catharsis. Catharsis already discussed in my previous video, but here I will discuss this according to Shakespearean tragedy, right? When we talk about catharsis, it is a remarkable feature of Shakespearean tragedy, and Shakespearean tragedies help the audience to feel and release emotions through the aid of tragedy. He gives us an opportunity to feel pity for a certain character and fear for another character, right? And this catharsis, it refers to the cleansing of the audience pent up emotions, and the protagonist hardships compel us to empathize with him. The villain's cruel deeds cause us to feel wrath toward him, and tears flow freely from our eyes when a hero like Hamlet dies. When we see that he's dying, we start crying. It seems to us as we are suffering from the same pain, right? And at the same time, we feel both sorry for Hamlet, and we also feel happy for Claudius, who has received his proper punishment at the end. This is known as catharsis. Fourth point is hamartia. Hamartia refers to the hero's tragic fall. It is another critical element of Shakespearean tragedy, right? Every hero falls due to some flaw in his or her character. For instance, in Hamlet, Hamlet's faltering judgment leads him to his untimely death, and he finds a number of opportunities to kill his uncle Claudius. But because of his indecisiveness, nature, he falls, and at last he finds an opportunity while he was praying. But Hamlet wants to kill Claudius when he is in the act of committing a sin. He didn't want him to kill when he is praying, right? It is this perfectionism or imperfectionism, or his we can say his failure to act, and uncertainty that ultimately results in his death and lead Denmark into chaos. This is because of inertia, because of fatal flaw. What is the fatal flaw? That he's not able to take decision because of his indecisiveness. He has to, we can say, he results what we can say, he has to suffer death, or he has to face death, and that lead Denmark into chaos, right? Next we have tragic waste. In Shakespeare's tragedies, the hero usually dies along with his opponent, and the death of a hero is not an ordinary death. It is death of an intellectual, honest, intelligent, noble, and virtuous person. And in a tragedy, when good is destroyed along with evil, the loss is known as tragic waste. And Shakespearean tragedy always includes such tragic waste of goodness, right? Next we have conflicts. We have two types of conflicts: external conflict and internal conflict, right? External conflict and internal conflict, these are two most essential elements in his tragedies, right? And external conflict causes internal conflict in the mind of the tragic hero, and every tragic hero in Shakespearean tragedy is confronted with external conflict that must be addressed. And when we talk about internal conflict, it refers to the confusion in the mind of the hero. This internal conflict is responsible for the hero's fall along with his fate or destiny, and the tragic hero always faces a critical dilemma, right? For instance, when we talk about Hamlet, he has to take revenge, but as a result of his uncle's security, he is not able to give shape to his ideas into action. This external conflict gives rise to internal conflict, which hinders Hamlet from taking any action, right? Here, Hamlet is confronted with external conflict in the shape of his uncle Claudius, right? And again, we can say Hamlet is a perfect example for internal conflict. How is it a perfect example? He finds a number of opportunities to kill his uncle, but because of his indecisiveness, he fails. He wants to kill Claudius when he is in the act of committing a sin, and it is because of his indecisiveness that he is not able to take decision. Right? This is Hamlet's internal conflict. Then next we have after this conflict we have supernatural elements, right? The supernatural element, this is also key element we can say in Shakespearean tragedies. Actually, English people in the 17th century believed in evil spirits who disrupted the order of nature, named as storm, and predicted death and hunger, etc. They believed in such evil spirits, right? And Shakespeare, in his well known tragedies, used witchcraft and the supernatural elements. He often used ghosts, witches, floating daggers, and he also used prophetic apparitions throughout his plays, right? Here, if we talk about Macbeth, he uses these elements of supernatural in order to attract readers, and he wants to show them a darker side of world also. And these witches play a significant role in the plot. These witches are responsible for motivating Macbeth to resort to murder in order to ascend the throne of Scotland, right? And his most well-known plays such as Macbeth, Hamlet, The Tempest, Julius Caesar, these are very much influenced by witchcraft and the supernatural elements, right? Next element I would like to discuss is poetic justice. Poetic justice, and there is lack of poetic justice in Shakespearean tragedies, or we can say there is no poetic justice. Rather, his plays contain only partial justice, right? Poetic justice means good is rewarded and evil is punished. This is already discussed when I talk about terms related to tragedy in my previous video. And uh, Shakespeare understood that poetic justice rarely occurs outside of fiction, right? Good deeds, in reality, good deeds often go without reward, and immoral people are often free to enjoy life to its fullest, right? So these this poetic justice. We can uh, feel poetic justice in Greek dramatists, but he didn't follow his predecessors in this term, particularly in this term, right? And next is comic relief. This is my last element, or again a key element of Shakespearean tragedy, we can say. In it, one or more humorous characters are introduced. Why they are introduced? They are introduced to lighten the mood, to lighten the we can say tragedy going on, to lighten the seriousness which is going on the stage, right? So these are humorous characters. These are introduced to lighten the mood of the audience, and characters they don't they don't laugh themselves, but they through their through their gestures or through their dialogues, the uh, tension of audience or readers is reduced, right? And Greek and Roman writers didn't use comic relief, but Shakespeare didn't follow his classical predecessors, in especially in the matter of his tragedies. He wanted to relieve the tension for the reader and lighten up. He wanted to lighten up the mood of the reader, or we can say he wanted to lighten up the mood of the audience, right? And here I would like to cite a few examples, like the gravedagger scene in Hamlet, then the drunkard poet scene in Macbeth. These are some comic relief uh, elements which are used by Shakespeare in his tragedies. So, friends, I hope you will like my content, and if you like it, please like, share, and subscribe my channel. And if you're new to my channel, please hit the bell button so that you can get notifications for my upcoming videos. And thanks a lot for watching.